Jackie, your viewers may not be aware that the council can issue notices which are called pollution notices. Now that's relevant for not only council purposes but also for people, generally corporations, who would be in a position that could or are likely to cause a pollution incident that would result in environmental harm. Now the legislation itself is silent as to whether or not any forewarning needs to be given to these individuals, but it's important to know that there's been a recent decision that actually has interpreted the legislation and now dictates the circumstances in which some warning or procedural fairness needs to be given to those potential polluters.
Right, and Keli, in what circumstances will a council be required to issue a warning notice to people that have created a pollution incident?
Like I mentioned before, Jackie, the legislation is silent as to this, and what it actually means is there's nothing in the legislation that actually requires council to give them any forewarning. So you could be understanding as to why councils would think they don't need to. But what has come out of a recent 2013 Land and Environment Court case is that the purpose of clean-up notices is to deal with urgent issues or urgent matters that could result in the imminent likelihood of a pollution incident occurring. So circumstances where if council doesn't take some action, a pollution incident that would result in environmental harm is very likely to occur in the near future.
Right, and so what's an example of when a council will be required to issue a notice of intention to issue a clean-up notice?
Council will need to give regard as to whether or not the incident or the pollution incident and environmental harm that is likely to occur as to how imminent or urgent that actually is. A good example and a simple example, Jackie, sediment control devices that could be placed around, for example, a building site, something like that. And a building site typically where there's lots of dirt and rubble, etc., that if a rain occurs, that building rubble and dirt will fall into the drain and eventually into a body of water, resulting in water pollution. So therefore sediment control devices need to be put in place quite urgently to prevent the very likelihood of a rain event and water pollution occurring. However, if the issue isn't as urgent and measures put in place don't need to be put in place to prevent an urgent pollution incident from occurring, then council should take the time to issue a warning notice to that potential polluter and allow that potential polluter the opportunity to make representations to council and afford them some procedural fairness.
Keli, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Jackie.